runs the channel reviews for you, Craig. Craig is trying to get back on YouTube. He's got some bullshit YouTube issue going on with them. Hi, Cross. And so he might pop into the chat. I've been talking to him on X. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully we'll get him back. So this is a catch up. So if you've all will probably have heard the story a bajillion times, but it's got to be told again. So, hey Dave. I'll give you basically everything. It's going to be kind of a jumbled mess because I'm remembering it. Okay. First off, back in 2019, The Acolyte was announced, or 2020. It was after Mandalorian was a success, and Kennedy discovered, and this is a Doomcock rumor, I believe it, Kennedy discovered that Favreau and Filoni, this is through Bob Iger, were taking the scripts they had written to George Lucas to go through. And she had a shit fit. I mean, she basically, this is the words from the rumor, a grain of salt, but you know, it's when you hear everything from the start to the finish, you'll understand why she's been there so long. Okay. She basically told Iger, this nonsense will end or I will burn it all down. And then, so she went against the grain and did a deal with Leslie Headland. Leslie Headland, of course, is the heir apparent to Harvey Weinstein. She worked for him for 6 years. She knew all of his secrets. She kind of sort of threw him under the bus. But likely she, got his sloppy seconds. Okay, I'm serious. I mean, she's a deranged lesbo on steroids. She's just disgusting pig. Anyway, so that's how The Acolyte got started. Luke came back, saved everybody on Moff Gideon's ship. They put Moff Gideon into, basically they were going to throw him in prison. And then after that, and I think there's a story that Kennedy's buddy was going to write the Kenobi script, and Favreau fired him. And the retaliation was basically putting it out there on deadline late on a Friday night. Yeah, it was a Friday night. That Gina Carano was no longer going to be part of Lucasfilm. They didn't tell Gina, they didn't run it past John and Dave, and they didn't run it past the Bobs, because that was when both Bobs were cohabitating the CEO. Iger was the chairman of the board, and Chapek was the CEO. And they couldn't do anything about it. We'll get closer. So a lot of the fallout, I think, from what's been going on later with the Book of Boba Fett, which I didn't mind. It wasn't great. The Skittles Bikers gang, there was so much that needed to be fixed on it. But when you realize Jon Favreau was in Atlanta doing something for Disney, Kennedy's minions were hard at work, fucking up the Book of Boba Fett. She knew what she was doing. She might be incompetent, but she's a vindictive bitch. Anyway, then you go further. You get to Kenobi. Now, Kenobi I thought was great. No, it didn't break canon. Obviously, she had enough of an influence on there to, of course, the casting of Moses Ingram wasn't a good casting. Ingram is not a good actress. I'm not saying that because she's black. I'm saying that because she's not a good actress. The show itself was fine. It does not break canon. Let me explain why. The part in A New Hope when Luke says, I'm here with Ben Kenobi. I'm here to rescue you. And Leia jumps up off the cot, yelling, saying, Ben Kenobi. That doesn't mean that she doesn't know who Ben Kenobi is. She's excited because he found her again. Okay? There's no canon breaking. The fight on that moon did not break canon. It was still, when you go through that whole sequence between 5 and 6, and it's master and apprentice. Obi-Wan is still the master, and Anakin, aka Vader, is still the apprentice, and he leaves him that way. Okay, that part where his mask is broken, and the voice of Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones are synthesized together is really good, and it's sad, and there's nothing there that breaks canon. I think people want to say it breaks canon because they hate Kennedy so much, and it doesn't matter if she had nothing to do with something. They think she did, and it's like, it's like talking to a 5-year-old, essentially now. And the reason why, Mandalorian season 3 was so kind of subdued is there is a pretty good, solid, I think, now source everywhere. Doomcock's got it. My friend Cameron Pasha, who you need to meet, he's a film maker, producer, writer in Hollywood, and he's the one with the connection to Lucasfilm. Basically, that people inside of Lucasfilm who are on John and Dave's side are like they're retconning and or erasing the sequel trilogy. That is happening. That's going to happen. Ahsoka has to be successful. Okay, we need season 2 to get back into the world between worlds to set things right. Maybe Anakin shows up, or Luke shows up with her, and they kill. Finally, gets rid of the Emperor. Finally, but I don't know. I mean, it's like one of those things. There's a rumor going around from somebody saying that they're going to use the galaxy that was discovered that Thrawn is in is a galaxy that's basically a parallel universe, which is dumb. That's really that sounds like, I don't see Jon Favreau or George Lucas liking that. Okay, I don't see them liking that at all, but that's a rumor. Anyway, the boys were told by Bob Iger to kind of step back because to undo the mess that Kennedy created, they have to wait for her to go. And let's go further now. Now, Mandalorian season 3's out. People cried, bitched, and moaned, and peed themselves. Horrible. I liked it. But I don't really have respect for somebody in their 40s and 50s if he's a guy that whines about this shit. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. If you liked it, you liked it. Other than that, go on your merry way. And if you haven't seen it and are bitching about it, you got no opinion whatsoever. Okay. So what happened? There was a, first off, we get around January, between 6th and the 12th, a message from a contact we call Sparrow in Lucasfilm, basically giving out the list of people that the HR department has written down as far as their jobs are terminated. Pablo Hidalgo was number 1. Carrie Beck was number 2. Rain Roberts is a producer on The Acolyte is number 3. And wait till we get to the story about The Acolyte. Okay, because all kinds of shit's going on about that. And there were several others, Matt Martin, Pete Sostek, it's a plethora of scum, okay? And the story was from the little birdie that Pablo was running around demanding to know who the leak was, and he wouldn't do any work, which is Pablo. I also have it on good authority from a contact. I'm not going to say whom, and I'm not going to say how I know this, that there's concern for Pablo because he's going nuts. Okay, I don't care. I always thought he was nuts. Okay, so basically after that, I was waiting for the hammer to drop. But apparently, according to things we found out recently, that Kennedy is the only one who can fire these people. And if she's still there, I mean, this is how fucked up her contract has been. She would have been gone in 2018 like we all thought. But before Star Wars Celebration, Iger wanted her to take her Viking funeral. We're going to celebrate you at the celebration, and then, after Indy 5 drops, you can announce your resignation. You're retiring. You'll get your golden parachute, which is like $25 or $30 million, and maybe executive producer gigs on 4 or 5 movies. Her counter was, they'll know I'm leaving. And, I mean, it's pretty obvious that when you've got Bob Iger and Ellen Bergman and Dana Walden, the 3 big fish, looking at you saying, we really want you to go now. If we could fire you for a cause, we would have fired you 4 fucking years ago. We would have fired you when Rogue One came out. Okay, but they couldn't. Okay, and there's a reason why. We'll get to that. So she goes to Celebration and announces a Rey movie that's not happening. They don't have the money. Announces Dawn of the Jedi movie with James Mangold, which I think would be cool. That's not going to happen. The only one that's going to happen is probably the Heir to the Empire one with Dave Filoni. Okay. Anyway. And then she brings on Leslie Headland, and that's another thing. Harvey's former personal assistant, and the cast from The Acolyte. So let's get into The Acolyte. Well, I woke up one morning in March and saw Acolyte producer sues Lucasfilm for egregious firing over The Acolyte. I'm like, okay. So I read the article. This woman named Karen McCarthy, she's got a body of work that I think anybody in Hollywood would be envious of. She's got connections with Tom Hanks and a lot of other people, Paul Giamatti, all these people. And she was offered 2 different positions. One with an Apple streaming TV show called Sugar, starring Colin Farrell. The other one was The Acolyte. And she chose The Acolyte. She started doing all this stuff, looking for a place to live in London. She had all of the emails, like what she would get per diem, what her living arrangements would be, etc., etc. And 2 weeks after Headland basically said, you're on, we're bringing you on, Headland wrote back and said, we can't use you, you're fired. We're firing you, basically. And this is a very serious woman, okay? So she tried to get paid. And because of who she is, and she was going to be the line producer in this show, and also was supposed to be, if she had taken the show for Apple Plus, she would have been the line producer for that show. So they owed her a few million at least. And instead of giving her what, was owed for both, because she lost both gigs, they gave her $5,000. So she's suing them. We figure, and Comrade and I and a friend of ours named Michael figured that Kennedy walked in to, and this is before Celebration, walked in to Iger's office and said, I want you to give me the green light for The Acolyte. Because they had done some filming. Somehow Hedlund has gotten some money. We figure she got some discretionary money from Kennedy's own discretionary funds at Lucasfilm. And some other stuff that was not so kosher. Okay, and there's funny business with the books. I did a video on that because Andor was being filmed at Pinewood, and this thing was supposedly being filmed at Shinfield, and the books are not exactly verbatim alike, but enough alike, and it's all over Hollywood to make people go like this. They could be using the tax rebates for filming. They could be, but there's more to it. It's very illegal. I can't say what it is. Okay, let's put it this way. Leslie Hedlund learned a lot from Harvey Weinstein. A lot. Okay. And she's too stupid to be playing the game that she's playing, but here we are. Anyway, what happened was Kennedy goes to Iger. I want you to give me the green light for this, and says we have some, probably even showed in the sizzle reel. I mean, this is me speculating. Iger says we're not doing the acolyte. We're not giving you the green light. Kennedy knows he doesn't want, in a way, yes, realizes he's not going to give her the go-ahead officially for this show. So, and you got to remember, all the stuff that they have, it was already filmed. Okay, they brag that they had a $50 million budget, but they only give Karen McCarthy $5,000. You see the problem here? And now they're trying to say that they have a second season already planned. Which is like, they're not even saying there's a second season for Ahsoka, and they're not going to say it's a go until episode 8 airs. Okay? That's how they do it. It's like, quit lying to people. And I don't even think it's Hedlund anymore. Oh, and I have reasons to think that too. So anyway, Kennedy at Celebration drags out Fat Cow Hedlund and the woke cast, diversified cast of The Acolyte. The actors don't know what it's about. We don't get to see a sizzle reel. And it's like, enough people now think there's something wrong with it that there's something wrong with this. And interestingly enough, Conrad was contacted by Ms. McCarthy's lawyers, okay? And I'll give you a little background. There's a group of YouTubers, WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade, and this guy who thinks he's the second coming of James O'Keefe, Jonah Campbell. And they were trying to work on the same news items we were. But because of, I think, a lot of things, racism, bigotry, the sociopathic need to be the only one with answers, they caused a lot of trouble for Cameron, and they caused a lot of people to basically not think. And it's too bad because the only person really out there being genuine, I mean, look, if Kamran is not telling the truth, his whole career depends on it. You got to think about that. And you won't go on to Midnight's Edge because of it anymore. And that used to be a place of real intellectual diversity and real thought, and now it's not anymore. Okay, it's just not that. The Geeks and Gamers losers and these three mega dolts showed up and just, I don't have anything to do with it. Anyway, and I respect Andre a lot. I'm mad at Tom for some things. He's not loyal to people, and a lot of people were loyal to him when this woman was basically me-tooing him which was a lie because I know the whole story. And anyway, she caused a lot of trouble too, but that's a long story. Anyway, back to what's going on. So we've got Star Wars Celebration where Kennedy undermines the presentation of Ahsoka. John and Dave are right there. Okay. And she's out there with this look of fuck you on her face and just announcing shit that's never going to happen. Okay, so, and of course the Acolyte, which Iger told her we're not giving it the green light. And then we have the lawsuit, which was before, I think, Celebrate. Was it before? I'm going to say it was before. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was after. So then we get going, and here's what's going on. When Indiana Jones 5 dropped, I went to Thursday previews. I was at the first showing in my area. I'm in my car. I'm looking at my watch. And phone rings. It's Cameron. And he's like, okay, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? I'm literally in the theater parking lot. He's like, Kennedy's been kicked off the Lucasfilm server. She cannot look at her email. She cannot get on the inside website. He said 5 guys from the headquarters in Burbank showed up and have taken over Lucasfilm. And they're going through everything. And they're called the 5 Horsemen of the Bobpocalypse. And they've all got names. Like there's one named Neil Legal. There's one called the Witch King of Burbank. He's the boss. You know, it's kind of funny actually. Anyway, that was Thursday. Indy 5 dropped. July 3rd, Kennedy, apparently it was July 3rd, Kennedy is in Iger's office explaining why, yes, it's still shut down. Yes. It's still, you've been here, you know, it's shut down. She's gone. She's selling her house. Okay? Stay up to date. You guys have always been here. So Kennedy has a face-to-face with Iger, with Alan Bergman, Dana Walden, and probably lawyers. And he's like, why is Indy 5 a failure? Because I already knew that. I mean, how long were your holidays? 3 months? Anyway, you know, how, you know. Okay, so this was before, so, all right, thanks, Dave. So Kennedy basically starts going, well, how come, blah, blah, blah. You know, she's basically blaming him for the Marvel failures, the failure of Lightyear, etc., etc. Iger exploded. Okay, Iger exploded. She goes off to Europe. Okay, she goes to France. I got a picture of her with her family to prove she was there by the 4th. So, thanks again, Dave. So anyway, these guys, the 5 Horsemen, are going through all of her email. They're looking for something. And they find it, a smoking gun that implicates Leslie Headland, and it's there. And if Headland throws Kennedy under the bus, she can be fired. Now let me talk about the contract. The reason why Iger didn't fire her in 2018, that Iger didn't fire her that day on the 3rd of July, or whenever that meeting could have happened on the Friday of Indy 5's first Friday. I don't know. Maybe it happened on Thursday. I mean, but we give it the date July 3rd. The reason why she couldn't be fired like anybody else is because her contract says she can't be fired for cause. Please go like that with your mouth again, because I know your jaw just dropped. I know, stupidest thing you've ever heard. But you can be fired if for a morals clause. And that doesn't mean what you think. It could be a criminal. So we got Leslie Headland, a smoking gun. Afterwards, Afterwards, apparently, Doomcock announced that there was another meeting between her and Iger. And Conrad on the same day said there was a very secret meeting up in the Presidio in San Francisco with Kennedy and the Witch King of Burbank. And no one knew about it. It was rumored, and then they discovered she had been there. No one saw her come in. She had a minder, and no one saw her leave. Okay. That Friday, a ton of moving boxes show up. Now, we haven't heard anything about the moving boxes or what those moving boxes are about. But we were assuming at the time they were clearing out Kennedy's office. All right. Again, there's that list. Carrie Beck, Pablo Hidalgo, all these other people that are under the gun too. The story group. I mean, we've got stories of, one of the people who worked for the story group had to write a script memo about why, a story memo about why Luke Skywalker is an important cultural figure. Okay. Another one was sent to wardrobe to find a variation on a costume. And it was really hard. Very few people would actually notice it. And the story group is just being sent on these humiliating and bizarre little things to do. And I'm not going to say who else was at these meetings when, and they had meetings, okay, after Indy 5 comes out, they had these meetings, they had two, where all hands on deck, where basically the Witch King of Burbank and the Five and somebody else was there. The person who's taking over Lucasfilm was there, basically saying, Kathy Kennedy, what happens to her doesn't matter. You guys don't concern yourselves with her. We're in control now. Things are changing. And that was said twice. Now, I want to go into this other thing. Now, so we've got Indy 5. There's a lawsuit by a company called Frost River Trading. They make rustic outdoor gear. They have a knapsack called the Geologist Bag. And it was in the Indy 5 wardrobe. And apparently, Kennedy was called up. Now, I am connected with Anthony Gruber. Yes, he was in the movie. He doesn't get credited, but he is in the scene. You can see him plainly. And he was a lot of time underneath the de-aged, deep-faked Indy in the beginning. Basically, I think she was there on set some of the time, but she mostly, in my opinion, acted like an absentee mother, parent. They get a hold of her and say the Filson knapsack that we've got from Filson doesn't fit the character, the image we have of the character. She said, grab another one from the wardrobe and we'll go and make it work. They grabbed the Frost River Trading one. Here's the thing. She did not ask permission, nor did they pay for the rights to use the Frost River Trading Company Geologist Bag. They just used it. Filson ends up using the bag in marketing campaigns for their outdoor lifestyle brand and using images from Indiana Jones 5. Okay. Let's go back. When Steven Spielberg was making E.T., he wanted to use M&Ms. The Mars company said, I think it's Mars, said no. So they went and used Hershey's Reese's Pieces instead. Okay. They went to the company. Okay. They did not just use the M&Ms. Okay. Kennedy completely ignored the laws and the rules surrounding product placement. So guess what? Lucasfilm is being sued yet again. And because Filson just jumped in and advertised a bag like it was theirs. They're getting sued as well by Frost River. So apparently, the rumor around the office, and again, I believe it, is the horseman called legal said, I wish we could rehire her being Kennedy, so we could fire her again. Okay. Because the way Disney is right now, they're not going to help with this issue. There are plenty of people in the legal profession that work for Lucasfilm that could have stopped this had they been paying attention. Okay, Kennedy didn't care. Her husband didn't care. Now, I want to show you something. I'll be right back. Okay, because I'm still using this and I can't share right to movies. I can't share this all right to YouTube. I want to show this. All right, let's go to this one. So this is, let me turn it up.
Here tonight.
All right.
There are three indispensable people without whom none of us would be here tonight. And that starts with the person who created Indiana Jones, George Lucas. The person who is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. And the person who is the glue to all five of these films that gave us all of our rhythm and all of our melody, the great maestro, John Williams.
Okay. Notice Spielberg, the way he's standing. He's got his back to Kennedy and her husband, her potted plant husband. And when he says the person that was the glue that held everything together, Frank Marshall turns towards the audience with this proud look on his face. And Kennedy's kind of looking there, standing there, hiding behind George. Because George won't look at her. Won't look at her. And when Spielberg says the great maestro, Marshall does this and then taps on her back and says, let's go. Okay. That is the moment they became persona non grata in Hollywood. Now, why haven't we heard about her being fired? Because I think she is. I don't care if she shows up on the website. This is the reason why. Look at, and I know you probably still have a lot of shares in Disney. You know this very well. Their shares are in the toilet. Okay. They can't afford to have really bad PR, and Kennedy's been nothing for 10 years of bad PR. They can't afford to have the Acolyte scandal come out. And trust me, if anybody finds out what the smoking gun is, you're going to be like this. And people who rationalize, like anybody at Geeks and Gamers, the Tom Quixotes will be saying, well, they always do that in Hollywood. It's still illegal. And if it can be used to dislodge that pus-filled hag from the company, by all means, use it. Okay. So, excuse me. So basically, we've got this, that's what's going on. She is, I think, in Sag Harbor, New York. I checked, I followed her husband on Twitter and or X on Instagram, and they're in New York. They're selling their house in Malibu. Yeah, 83.36 is bad. I mean, this is not a good price. And Iger's now getting calls to resign. And look, the people who are asking him to resign are woke assholes. Okay, but you know, the people that have the power of you go or not go are people like Nelson Peltz and Dan Loeb and the rest of them who are the big hedge fund investors who have left ESG and DEI behind, and they're like, you got to fix this. They want to make money. Okay, that's why Nelson Peltz put $900 million into Disney, and yeah, he added more. Okay, it's very interesting to me watching how this has happened, but the reason why we haven't had any recently good stuff from, and we're not going to get any, trivial leaks, is because basically they've put the kibosh on leaking. So our guys, our people, because a sparrow could be many, okay, are keeping their heads low. It's not that we're hurting. Yesterday, so I sent him a message on X saying that basically I was going to do a video to catch up. They're basically keeping their heads low. So if anything big is about to be announced, like the firing of Carrie Beck, the firing of, Candace Campos or Rhonda Hjort, who are both prominent names in the case that Karen McCarthy has. I've got the case. All right, I've got the defendants' filings and the plaintiffs. And what was the basically defense has no the number 27 on the defense filing is, well, they're suing the wrong company. So I went and checked the shell company that Leslie Headland and basically Rhonda Hjort in up in San Francisco was helped build in the UK. Now here's the thing: $50 million, 35 million British pounds, adds up to $50 million. And I don't believe it. Now we've got, from a friend of mine that I call Lord Tornaga, he's got a friend that's a very big deal at one of the other studios, and I'm not at liberty to say whom. I call this guy Mr. Fox. He basically has connections at Lucasfilm, and they said it's chaos. It's absolute fucking chaos. And the feelings from other C-suite circles is there were two sets of books, and because Andor was filming in the UK, and they filmed something, whatever part of their frickin' sizzle reel, in the UK and like in the Canary Islands and whatever, that they sort of copied in a way, not verbatim, but hey Jay, but there was enough like from the, I'm gonna, because we don't know what shows they are, but the only shows that I could actually find that were filming at the same time are the quote unquote Acolyte and Andor. Andor being real, Acolyte not being real. Okay. And to me, when I look at the Acolyte books, they're not real. If you've got $50 million, if Disney gave you the green light, gave you $50 million, and you decided to go on without Karen McCarthy, I would give her $5 million. Sorry, Karen, it didn't work out, but here's $5 million. So they gave her $5,000. And now everybody wonders why she's suing them. Okay, and that's just part of it, the funny money, the books. acolyte being sued makes you go, I don't think they have that much money. The fact that McCarthy was pushed out so quickly tells me that Kennedy didn't get the green light. She told Hedlund about it. Hedlund said, we can do something and convince them to give us the green light. And Kennedy's like, so they pretended they had a show. It's to me, it's like, look, the people that count know you don't have a show. So I don't understand any of this behavior. And it seems to me like Hedlund and what they, and again, they kick McCarthy out because they don't want her to know what's really going on. Because if she finds out, everybody in Hollywood will know that they don't have a show. And for some reason, Kennedy in her pea-sized brain needs the acolyte to be real. She needs it to be real. Okay, if it's not real, what happens to her? That's me saying that. So that's pretty much as far as I get. The last thing we heard was that when the basically the horseman named Legal realized that they were being sued, and look, Lucasfilm they have to come up with a solution because they don't have the money. I mean, Iger's like, you figure this out on your own, okay? And they're trying to come up with a solution where it doesn't have to go all the way to lawsuit, where it doesn't have to go to discovery and everything. Oh, you're welcome, Dave. And it's really quite fascinating right now. No, they have not said who's going to take over. Kennedy has not been announced; she's gone. But with Steven Spielberg's rebuke of her, which I showed here, and I've got it on several other videos. You just scroll down and watch. Selling their house, and the fact that she's not allowed on campus without a minder. Moving boxes have showed up. Well, we haven't found out what they were for yet. And I think if we do know who it's for, they're keeping it on the down low from us right now. But everything leads to that she's leaving. When you've got Lucasfilm lawyers telling other studio executives, C-suite, it's okay. It's fine, Tim. And thank you, Ira. When you've got C-suite executives talking to C-suite executives and saying Lucasfilm is in turmoil, and that there's a story about a Disney Plus show and 2 different sets of books, and the only ones I could find, because I looked, were The Acolyte and Andor. And it's out in Hollywood, everybody knows. Look, I mean, everybody knew the moment Spielberg, with his back to Kennedy and Marshall, and didn't acknowledge them at all. Did not acknowledge them at all. All right, that's a BFD. Steven Spielberg is the king of Hollywood. Okay, and that was a shunning. So, they haven't sold the house yet. It's up on, Carbon Mesa Road. It's a nice place. It's open to the outdoors. It's overlooking Malibu Beach, so you can see the ocean. It's quite beautiful. And they're selling it. And last time I know, Kennedy and Marshall are in New York. There you go. Anyway, I wanted to do this recap, and I really hope you can get your YouTube channel fixed up. If not, just start a new one. let us know, start a new one, and we'll just go ahead with it. But yeah, I mean, we've got quite a bit of good, solid news now coming out of what's going on at Lucasfilm. And yes, I 3 cheers for the Horseman and 3 cheers for the Witch King of Burbank. And when someone big goes out, Carrie Beck or whomever, Lin-Wen Brennan, that'll be the signal that Kennedy's gone, even if they haven't made it official. And we don't know when her, if it's this October, her, I can't even talk, contract is over, or if it's next October. I'm really hoping it's this October because they really need her not to be there anymore. Now, maybe she can be coerced or convinced to let Lucasfilm go and retire. Okay, look, obviously, because Spielberg said so without saying so, Hollywood doesn't want her anymore. I mean, they know how incompetent she's been since, I think, Rogue One in 2018 with the stupidity behind The Last Jedi and the failure, abject failure of Solo. Everybody knows. So Spielberg shunning her like she did and her husband pretty much proves that it's over. And she's just got to be convinced to just go away. Okay. So, thank Planet Musk. So it's just one of those things where we wait. And I want, I know some people don't like Ahsoka. I thought it was great. I thought it was the first time in a long time, well, since Mandalorian season 5 came out, that I felt good about Star Wars. I do want to talk about the firing of Gina Carano. The fact of the matter is, I think too many fans simp for her and are using her as an ultimatum, and they need to stop. She doesn't care. She wasn't loyal to John or Dave. Sure, it was bad what happened to her. But it's time to let it go. And I think that's where all this, I don't know, Star Wars, Kenobi, blah, blah, blah. It's like, fuck you. Let us just watch this and have fun. Okay? That's what it's about. Okay. But I really think that's the thing that probably is the big hang up. And is she going to come back? It's up to her, I'm going to say. Because I think John and Dave would have her back. And if she says no, I know a lot of fans will say, well, that's what they deserve because they didn't stick up for her. They would have been fired. Okay? And until recently, that was a very real thing that Kennedy would pull. Okay? The only person standing in between John and Dave and her was Bob Iger and Bob Chapek. Okay? And so, having a contract where you can be where you can't be fired for cause, you want to look at the people who are doing the hiring going, why would you ever? And you're worse. Yep, right, Cross. The worst possible thing you could do as a company doing the hiring is hire someone that had never done anything on their own, who by word of mouth seemed pretty incompetent without guys like Spielberg, Eastwood, Lucas, etc., pointing her in the right direction. Hiring her with a clause that she can't be fired for cause in her contract. It's just like, so they couldn't find anybody to take over. They could. When she signed that last contract, I think it was 2 years ago in 2021, that started. And people kept talking about, every year is her contract being renegotiated and stuff. So her contract could very well be done now. Okay, it could be very well done in October. But again, maybe she can be convinced to retire and let it go. Okay, maybe there's enough illegal activity by Headland that she knew about and allowed to force her to say fall on her sword. We're dealing with a sociopath and a husband who enables her. So there you go. Anyway, I gotta go. And you have a good afternoon. Have a good evening. And for everybody who's here, this was a rehash. Okay, from the last stuff that you've been told. For newbies who are here, welcome aboard. Yes, this is my voice. And if you see that, that was from when I was 19 years old. I had to be intubated for, basically I had pneumonia and went into septic shock and was dying when they did that. So anyway, that's why my voice is like this. But I don't know what you're talking about, Ira. Anyway, I gotta go because I gotta start thinking about getting ready for church, and the alien face hugger will be there harassing me and my husband again. So there you go. Anyway, I will see you guys around the galaxy. Behave, be safe. Craig, hit me up on a, if you want to do a Zoom call and we can upload it to this channel and I can do bumpers, an intro and an outro. Okay, Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.